In this video, we're going to be checking out Diana of Themyscira as we have a look at the dynamic action heroes Wonder Woman. This is the Beast Kingdom Dynamic Action Heroes DAH-002, the Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice Wonder Woman. To figure out how tall Wonder Woman is, we're going to go ahead and take the tape measure and put it next to her. She's exactly 7 inches in height. Technically, the figures are supposed to be 8 inches in height. That's why they're called Dynamic 8 Action. So it's basically like 8-C-T-I-O-N action with 8. However, if you compare her to, say, the likes of Superman, she is scaled appropriately to the Man of Steel. Now, Superman was 8 inches in height, so obviously it would have to make sense that she would be a little bit shorter. So she is a little bit shy of being an 8-inch tall figure. For her display stand, she gets herself a Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice display base. In fact, it was the exact same display base as what we got with the Superman, other than the front placard being slightly different. Wonder Woman for hers, Superman for him. Really nice, small, not quite circular, but a almost square-like base with the corners cut off. Very nice, very shiny. And then, of course, you've got the adjustable neck on the side that features Beast Kingdom running down it. This part here is adjustable. It's actually on a ratcheted joint, so it retains, depending on where you want to place Wonder Woman on it, or I should say which angle you want to place Wonder Woman once you have her on display. This section here also does rotate. There's a hinge right at the top, and each of the waist clips also have hinges to them. They simply just open and close. You can go ahead and take the figure, depending on how you want to have her displayed. If you are somebody who caters more to, say, for example, a museum pose, which is essentially this. Granted, yes, of course, you could add a shield, you could add the sword, but by default, museum pose usually is just the straight figure with arms draped to the side. So you can do that. You can also get a little, of course, a little bit more creative. One of the benefits of this particular figure is she has 24 movable joints. 24. So it does give you some options for how you want to display the figure. Like I said, you could put her in a more action pose, and you can go ahead and just clip her back onto the display base. Now, mileage may vary depending on, again, how you want to display her, but Beast Kingdom does give you enough posability on the figures, as well as the flexibility of the display base, to really cater most, if not all, the poses that you want to put her in. The accessories, she actually does come with a fair share. The first one being the Sword of Athena, which is actually made of die-cast. You can feel it certainly more so in the blade itself than perhaps the handle, but it is of a die-cast material. It's got some amazing decorative work running across from the top of the hilt all the way to the bottom of the blade. The blade itself, or I should say the handle itself, also has some really nice metallic gold and almost metallic blue incorporated in there as well. You can display that in her hand. I'll show you that in a second. She does also come with her shield. I've always loved the color of Wonder Woman's shield. It's almost kind of a bluish gray, bluish blackish gray. That's just a series of colors combined. But I really love the coloring palette here. Got the gold on the outer area there with all the individual rivets, and then you've got some scroll work running around the perimeter of the shield. You flip it around. 2 straps for the arms, the forearms, and then 1 main link or loop for her hand to hold around. Again, I'll show you that in a second. Also comes with her lasso. Now, there's 2 variations of the lasso that comes included with the figure, one of which being the completely just kind of closed off, looped around one intended for her belt. And then she also has this really cool dynamic one that almost seems to have a more pulsating glow to it. It's made of a more translucent plastic. The coloring is obviously not quite the same as just the standalone tied off a lasso. So this one you could theoretically wrap it around something, or if you really wanted to, you could just display her with it. I will say this though, and speaking to stressing, I will stress the stresses that may be caused if you try to bend this. It's not a wire frame, it's simply just plastic, so I wouldn't be bending this at all. You'll immediately, probably right away, start seeing stress marks, and then that may potentially break, so just FYI. But you know, you could just have her simply holding it in her hand, and then just have the lasso draped around her. Rounding out the last of her accessories, WW here gets herself a pair of relaxed palms. She also gets herself a pair of closed fists, a little bit smaller to hold on to. These actually were the hands that were defaulted in the sockets, the forearm sockets, when I took her out of packaging. And then the other hands I've already put into the sockets. These are a pair of partially closed or gripping hands. Just gonna move everything out of the way. I suppose we could go back to talking about the lasso, because theoretically, you know, it would be a topic of point, discussing the way the figure is put together. You'll see that there's this little loop. It loops itself all the way through and pegs itself inside the little hole notch there. It seems to close relatively well without the lasso in place. I did notice, however, if you open this up, and then you put the lasso through, it doesn't seem like there's enough clearance, or I find I struggle a little bit trying to get the peg into the hole. I can fit it, but it doesn't seem to want to close. The loop this part here could have perhaps been a little bit longer. I mean, in some ways it does fit. There's enough clearance, but try as I might, I just simply can't peg that in place. It just doesn't seem like it holds the peg. I just want to bring that to your attention. Put that over there. We'll go back to her accessories in a second. I'll show you how it fits into her hand and all that good stuff. But roughly 4 minutes in, want to, at the very least, talk about the figure itself. I do really like this figure. One thing I will say, though, is that the head sculpt, as beautiful as it is, I feel like it slightly misses its mark when it comes to looking like Gal Gadot, and of course therefore being Wonder Woman. It's a little on the maybe perhaps too round of a nature. The cheeks probably could have been just a little bit more narrower, I suppose. But the face is pretty, I will give it that. I think on certain angles it looks a little bit more like her than face on. She is a little slightly a little bit darker around the eye area as well. A little bit more shading there, probably, than what was necessary. But otherwise, not a bad looking face sculpt. I think by contrast, I feel the need to bring him in now. I feel by contrast, Superman had the better head sculpt. Batman had an awesome head sculpt, but I think Superman, by comparing him to Wonder Woman, I think he does have the better of the two head sculpts. As for the rest of Wonder Woman, she's a really fair-skinned, in other words, she's a very pale-skinned character. That translates here to a very pale-skinned figure, but I feel like the skin could be just a little on the pale side. She's got her harness running all the way through her body. Well, not through, literally through her body, but around her body. I suppose, in theory, you could take it off. I don't really know why you would want to. It has looped its way, actually, through the back section of her bodice here. Paint on both the torso as well as the lower skirt are actually nice. They've gone more the route of a kind of a cranberry red and a metallic blue, and then offsetting that with some accent colors there of the gold, the trim around the bottom of the skirt, the Wonder Woman or the quasi Wonder Woman crest down below here, also in a stunning gold. Got some gold also on her arm gauntlet or arm bracelet. And as for the gauntlets themselves, very, very nicely painted here in silver, with again those gold accents happening on the sides. She's a little bit more complete. Let me explain what I mean by that. If we look at Superman, one of the things I did mention, though, is that he does have a bit of that gap showing as a result of the way that the shoulders work mechanically and internally how those shoulders work with the figure. As a result, though, you have a little bit more of a gap happening here. Wonder Woman, though, has a more finished, fully realized, fully finished body. There's very little in the way of gaps happening here whatsoever. Even like lifting her arm up, there's absolutely no gappage between the socket of where the shoulder resides and the shoulder itself. Then we get down to her lower feet. Same coloring as her bodice. Some additional gold running down the front stripes down to her feet. And she's got the strapped off foot exposed boots that she has from the movie. Always really loved this Wonder Woman design. And I think overall Beast Kingdom does translate that well to plastic form. Maybe perhaps except for, again, the head could have been, I think, slightly changed. Like right from there, it doesn't look too bad. From the front, I do feel like the face is maybe just a little bit too round. The hair is generally pretty good, though. It's got a natural flow to it. I like when you can go in and you can see all the individual hairs rather than just kind of the slight indications of hairs. So that's nicely done. Yeah, again, overall, not a bad figure whatsoever. So let's go back to her accessories. Like I said, she does come with her die-cast sword. The sword fits into her hand, but I do find it's a lot easier if we just take the hand off for a second. Don't worry, Wonder Woman, we will give you back your hand in a second. I do find it's a little easier, actually, to pry the hand open, fit the sword through. There we go. And then put it back in the socket. Because of the nature of how small those pegs are, getting the hand in place can be tricky all on its own, but then trying to finagle and get a sword into the hand, a lot of times the hands will just simply pop off. So it's a lot easier, actually, if you put the sword into the hand and then put the hand into the socket. You can then go ahead and take her shield, and the shield, a little trickier because you have to loop it through the two notches, the two little looplets here. Now you could go again the route of taking the hand out, feeding the arm through, and then attaching the hand. I'm simply just kind of showing you how it looks inside. Again, your easiest bet probably would be to take the hand off, fit it around the last loop, and then just literally run the rest of the forearm through the loops, and then do your best just to kind of attach everything in place. But I'm just kind of quickly showing you how everything comes together. And there's Wonder Woman, fully equipped. Looking pretty good indeed. Let's go ahead and actually take the sword, take the hand with the sword off. Again, we'll just pull this off. Luckily, the hands, the fingers, and the thumb are very soft materials, so it's a lot easier to finagle and move those around. You don't feel like you really have to struggle prying those open, especially when it comes to time to add the lasso, because the lasso is really something that you don't want to have to be prying yourself. Pry the fingers have give. Do not want to be prying the lasso too much, because again, it's just plastic. It's going to develop stress marks, and you know, the last thing you definitely want is that not breaking on you. We'll go back and try that again. Just get those hands open. I do like the coloring in the plastic that they used for the lasso. There we go. That's a bit of a more secure fit. And again, we just want to pop the hand onto the joint and the lasso of truth in her hand. Looking good, actually. Really, really nice. Kind of wish this was a wire, but I mean, by the nature of the way that it's glowing, somewhat glowing, and because it is a translucent plastic, you wouldn't be able to swing that using a wire frame, like an actual wire running through that. So, looks good though. I do like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and just get her to stand straight here for a second. There we go. Take her hands back out. Go ahead and take the hand out of the shield. And then we'll look at the posability on the figure. Now, Superman had 30 movable joints. Wonder Woman has trimmed that back a bit by 6. She only has 24 points of articulation. We'll go ahead and run through that now. So her head is on technically a ball joint. it's by no fault of Beast Kingdom, but just because of the sculpting of the hair, it doesn't matter whether you get this in a high-end figure or if you even get like a retail release $10 figure. Anytime any character has long hair, just by the nature of the way that the plastic works, it's very difficult to get the head to move back and forth, and Wonder Woman here is no exception. I suppose in theory, without the hair, her head would be moving perfectly fine. Again, you can hinge it up and down, rotate it left and right, but again, the hair will sort of get in the way of that. The shoulders hinge outward, no problems whatsoever there. Those rotate all the way around. She does also have a swivel. Now the swivel, actually, if you look at it, if I just hold on to the shoulder here, the swivel actually sits in the bicep. That's where you can rotate the arm there. Also has a hinge on the elbow, which does not allow you to rotate it because the rotation is happening up here. Doesn't need to be down there. Hinge on the elbow, rotation all the way around. Technically, it's a ball joint, so you can get as much out of the hands as what you would normally get out of something that does have a ball joint to it. Unfortunately, Wonder Woman doesn't have any sort of torso articulation. Wish that she could have had a ball joint. They could have, I guess, cut right in there, or I guess they could have just made a much more obvious kind of curve cut there, in which she could have had a ball joint. Ultimately, you can't rotate anything to Wonder Woman here. She's pretty much just staction. In other words, there's nothing movable to it. The legs, however, do split out very easily, forward and back. It has a top swivel cut, but a halfway cut on the thigh. The leg rotates all the way around that way. Has a double hinge on the knee. And then when you get to the foot also has its hinge. You can rotate them. Slight ankle rocker. And she does also have toe articulation. I feel as if the toe articulation wasn't even necessary. I appreciate that it's there, because it gives you a little extra that you can do with the bend of the toe. But it's so small, like I said, it probably didn't even need to be there. Again, I appreciate any bit of articulation any of these figures could have. And Wonder Woman, though she doesn't have as much as the Man of Steel, still is a pretty posable figure that you can get a lot of cool poses with. What's drawn my attention to the Beast Kingdom Dynamic Action Heroes is not only are you getting movie-accurate sculpts, but you're also getting super highly posable figures that pretty much can execute any pose that you can come up with in your head. It certainly beats having the figures simply just standing in museum poses on your shelf. You can get a little bit more creative, like I've tried to do here in Final Looks. Admittingly, though, going back to the sculpts, I don't find that the Wonder Woman is as good of a head sculpt as the Superman. Both the Batman and the Superman I thought were exceptional head sculpts and some of the best that I've seen in plastic form. Wonder Woman is still good, but I feel like the head sculpt could be slightly tweaked to give us really the definitive Gal Gadot Wonder Woman. Everything else comes together rather well. She comes with a fair share of accessories, and like I said, she is fairly posable as well, so you can do as much as you could probably come up with in the movie, except for not being on the set with and hanging out with Gal Gadot, which would be, yeah. At any rate, today's video, we were having a look at the Beast Kingdom. This, by the way, was the Beast Kingdom Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice DAH-002, the Wonder Woman Dynamic Action Heroes. You guys want to go back and have a look at some of the other Beast Kingdom reviews that I've done? There's a playlist specifically for Beast Kingdom on this channel called, that's right, Ryan, Beast Kingdom Reviews. You can go in there and have a look at all the two other Batmans that we've had a look at. We're going to have a look at some more Beast Kingdom in future videos, so stay tuned for that. But make sure you hit that little subscribe button down below. That is crucial. That will guarantee that when new videos are coming up onto the channel, you'll never miss a beat. As always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.